Oh shit. It scared you. It scared me too.
Yeah. The entire courtyard was a cemetery. Are we together? The courtyard was a graveyard. What I mean is, dead bodies were buried all over here. There are graves all over, including mass graves. But the people buried here were Brits because when the captives died, their bodies were dumped into the ocean. So I believe you all agree with me that this beautiful Atlantic Ocean is the biggest mass grave because you cannot even count the number of our ancestors who were buried in this ocean. But they had this as their graveyard. They excavated this courtyard. When the excavation was done, only 4 graves had marks. So only 4 were identified. These are for Europeans. And the one there is for African. And I believe one may ask, you said it was a graveyard for the Brits. Why this African buried here? Philip Kwaku, buried there, was a native of this city. He was from this city, right? His father was a slave merchant.
Slave what?
Merchant. The father was doing buying and selling of captives, doing business with them. Due to that, Philip was awarded scholarship by the church when he was 11 to study in Britain. Philip attended the prestigious Oxford University. They ordained him. He became first African to be ordained a priest of the Anglican Church. And immediately after he was ordained, they brought him back, worked with them for 50 years as clergyman, missionary, and a schoolmaster in the church and the school. He died 17th October 1816 when he was 75 years old. See, slave trade was officially abolished here 1833. He died 1816, meaning he came or even died before slave trade was abolished. So that guy was preaching the gospel upstairs while his fellow Africans were dying in the dungeons. Every 17th October, the Anglican people in this city celebrate him. They come here, surround his grave, say some prayers after they lay flowers on the grave in his memory. Some few months ago, they were here. These are for Europeans. Let's just mention them and continue. C.B. Whitehead, a soldier who joined the military, died in July 1812 when he was 38 years. A lady buried here, Letitia Elizabeth London. She came here to visit George MacLean, but Letitia died just 2 months after she came. Rumors, gossips had it that malaria killed her. Others are saying when she came, George, the husband, was having an extramarital affair with an African mistress called Miss Ellen Bannerman from Accra. When Letitia heard that, out of jealousy, she poisoned herself. Others are saying the African mistress poisoned Letitia. So to date, we don't know how to cure that, whether it was parasite, homicide, or suicide. She died in 1838 when she was 36. George was a Scottish, but he came around 1830 as administrator. But this guy, George MacLean, is very popular in our colonial history because he designed a bond treaty known in Ghana as the Bond of 1844. It's a bond which paved way for the establishment of British colony in Gold Coast for 100 years. This guy designed the bond. Then Governor Commander Hale, with 8 Ghanaian chiefs, fancy chiefs, signed the bond on 6th March 1844. Gold Coast, now Ghana, became a colony to the British. So see, the British were our slave masters. They became our colonial masters. Ghana is still a member of the British Commonwealth.
Still?
Yes. I don't even know what at all we get from the Commonwealth.
Yeah.
Because the Commonwealth games are never played in Africa. But see, If you go to the Caribbean, there are some countries who were members because they were colonized by the Brits. So they were members of the Commonwealth, but they are now exiting. When you come to Africa, there are some countries I don't want to mention names. They were not members. They were not colonized by the Brits, so they were not members. But they are now applying to join the Commonwealth.
Which country?
I said I won't mention, but I can consult the internet.
Okay. Oh,
So see, the African was 75 years old, though. The Europeans 38, 36, 46. Malaria. Let's see the condemned cell. Let's hurry up and see the condemned cell before. Sorry, oh.
You're right.
This is original. Are you together? This door here is over 200 bad years. Made of wood and metal. Pitch pine wood to make it more stronger. They coated the wood with metal plates. See the thickness. Before we go in there, 2019, I believe we all remember Ghana organized Year of Return. Year of Return. And 2019 again marked exactly 400 years when first enslaved Africans landed in Jamestown, Virginia. So Ghana marked it. And during the event, African Genesis Institute mounted this one here. And I'm showing you this because of what they wrote here. What they are saying here is very touching, very powerful. They are saying, we are the children of those who refused to die. You know, most of the people were killed, but some refused to die. Some survived. That is why I have the descendants scattered all over the globe. And these are names of some of the descendants, but very few of them, minute percentage, like 0.00001%. So if you all decide to paste your names here, I don't think our walls can contain them. Sale. But this is not an ordinary sale. This is condemnation sale. You know that word's room of no return. What I mean is, this is where the freedom fighters were killed. Mind your heart. Then down, 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 down. Yes, keep your head low. Yes, keep it low, keep your head low till you get in. Down, down. Please, quick, come out. Let's do it quick and come out. Let's do it quick. Please go in. Please go. Please go. Ofane, go in. Condemnation cell. Room of no return. This room was originally a storage. It was one of the storerooms where they were storing their stolen goods. So you can see there was a door there. When it was a storage, the door was there. When they wanted to use this room as a cell, when they wanted to kill some of the captives here, they closed the door. And those captives wanted to fight for their freedom, the freedom fighters. But they were seen by the Brits as stubborn or rebellious ones. But you know, they were made to suffer for too long. And when man is suppressed, oppressed, depressed, or repressed there for a long time, one day you fight back, explode. Those who tried to escape and were caught, and those who constantly fought them, could be 2, 3, 5. They will chain all of them together, push them in, lock them with first door, second door, third door. The doors were 3. No light, no ventilation, no oxygen, no food, no water. 2, 3, 4 days. They will struggle, suffocate, die. Painfully, huh? When they locked the doors, they made sure all of them died before they opened. I mean, even after 3 days, when they open, see 1 or 2 still alive, they will shut the doors again till the last person is gone. See, if I'm here with you, and if you die before me, the only thing I could do is to sit or lie by the bodies with the chain on the ankles of my ankles, waiting for my turn. And if any of you died on the first day, by the 3rd, the 4th day, after they will bring in some of the male captives in for the bodies, gather all others at the graveyard. Those they will bring in for the bodies, they will instruct them to go show the bodies to those guarded, for them to see what they did to those they brought here. So they were killed here for no offenses, just that they wanted to fight for their freedom. That is why the Romans call condemnation cell. They pushed them in alive, took them out dead. Let's return. From visitors. From visitors. Well wishers and sympathizers. So next time when you are coming, do not forget to bring one. Bend down. Bend down. 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 All right, please, let's see the male dungeon. Let's see the male dungeon. Let's see the male slave dungeon. Way boom, way boom, way boom, way boom, way boom, way boom. Nti na mekɔ ha mefi da mabana nti ayɛkɔ wa ayɛkɔ dungeon wa obi hyɛ hɔ dada. Please come. Yes. Church entrance. Oh, please come forward. Please come forward. Please come forward. Please come forward. This is where we started, right? And I told you the dungeon was behind us. But now we are on top of the male slave dungeon. I believe you recall I mentioned that church was built on top of the male dungeon. This was the first Anglican church. SPG Church, Society for the Propagation of the Gospel. Now children's library. So school children come to the library to read. And this hole here was a spy hole. Are we together? This was a spy hole. Sometimes it served as a feeding hole. They dropped food through this hole for the captives, right at the entrance of the church. So they could be passing for church services and they could hear the captives screaming. They could be passing for communion services and they could be dropping leftover food for the captives. Church, yes. So someone will be here listening to conversations in the dungeon and they will be passing to church to sing Amazing Grace. Yes, which was originally composed by John Newton. And John Newton was once a slave ship captain. Later, he repented and became a reverend minister. I think after making enough cash from slave trade, he became a pastor. You know, they could also hear them singing, preaching, but they couldn't come out to join them worship because the Bible says, if you're in hell, there's no way you could go to heaven. And it is like heaven up here, hell down there. You still understand why I'm saying that when we go to the male dungeon. Let's quickly see where the big man, the governor, was living. Right after that, we shall see the male dungeon. Go to the door of no return. See female dungeons. When we return through the door of return, we shall say bye-bye. So there is door of no return and door of return. Door of no return for our ancestors, but door of return for us. Ashe. Let's see the governor's residence briefly, quickly. Reception area for the governor. Governor's office. You can see the office. He's not there. Governor's personal office. I'm just showing you the spaces the governor alone occupied. This was his winery. Governor's winery. They were living larger. Yes. Reception area for the governor. Wine or beverages were stored there. This was his office, personal office for the governor. Office for the governor. Governor's office. Before we move up to his bedroom, we are going there right after here. Before we move to his bedroom, the canons line up. Canons. The Brits brought these canons and cannon balls to defend themselves because other European countries wanted to take over the facility as the British themselves took it from the Dutch. I was telling you, this very piece of land on which this dungeon is built on changed hands severally, from Portugal to Sweden to Denmark to Netherlands to Britain. And again, you know, west coast of Africa became one front of the Anglo-Dutch wars, 1664 to 1668. Same wars were fought in America, 1664, fell to the Brits, and they renamed New York. Those of you came from Accra, just about 25 kilometers before you get to Cape Coast. There's a fort on your left-hand side, Fort Amsterdam. Fort Amsterdam. Fort Amsterdam was built by the Brits. So it was originally called Fort York. Fort York. In the year 1665, just a year after, the Dutch also did well this time round, captured the fort from the British, And they also renamed Fort York Fort Amsterdam to tally to what they lost in America. So New Amsterdam is now New York. Fort York here is now Fort Amsterdam. Tit for tat, huh? They pounded gunpowder in the cannon. Gunpowder. A ball, fixed fire, boom. Some of them are with hose, and those with hose were filled with gunpowder. Entered the wooden ships, exploded. Those with their hose entered the ships, created holes in the ships. Water came in. Those who just came, I said this was the governor's reception area, his office, winery. Let's
So we put it today's time.
governor's living room for the governor. Yes, this is just the living room hall. You know, one governor at a time. The Europeans are not coming with their families, nor their wives, nor children, because of our tropical diseases killing them. They named West. No, they brought gunpowder, gold, gold, guard, glory. They saw enemies, pirates coming first before soldiers at the barracks here. When they saw anything like that, they gave the information here using signals, light, flags, and muskets, mirrors. The signal, especially the flag, the color, determined the kind of information. So there's communication room downstairs, meaning there was no MTN, no telecell, no Wi-Fi, but there was WhatsApp. A soldier will be in here 24/7 watching just to pick signals. Yeah, to see what's up.
Spine room.
Spine, yes. And the floor here is original. Pitch pine wood, around 300 years. Original tiles. You remember George McLean? The guy buried downstairs. This was his living room. This was his living room. McLean's living room. And George McLean, we talked about him downstairs, who allegedly connived with the mistress to poison the wife, Letitia Elizabeth London. This was his living room. He was here as administrator. Let's see the male dungeon. No, you can see where I was standing. Yeah. We stand right here, look up to the last chamber, about 1,000 men. No light. So these holes give them some natural light and ventilation. We should know that the dungeon is dark. Oh, when you go to the first chamber, I'll turn off the light. And because the dungeon is always dark, some of them lost their sight. And can you imagine what we are standing on? Times they were bringing food for them by domestic captives. But sometimes, and when those here were hungry and the food was not coming, they became very aggressive, very angry. I always say they sacrificed for us. And what the Europeans did to our ancestors, made their ancestors to go through. None of us here could go through that and survive. Not even 10% of what they went through. So they refused to die. May the souls of our ancestors continue to be. The water was supposed to flush out feces, urine, vomit, blood, and all that to the trenches down into the ocean. But they filled up. The trenches filled up. That is why feces, urine, vomit covered the entire floor, like what we see here. When they did the excavation, they left the portion here for us to show our guests. So again, this is DNA. One of the spy holes, one of the feeding holes. As I told you, sometimes they dropped food. Some of them were there. So the food probably dropped on them or right in front of them, but they refused to eat. Because opened their jaws with a device, speculum, pushed food in. They forced further so that at least they will eat something to keep them alive. Now, after doing all this from Monday to Saturday, Sunday they'll go up, pray for their businesses to flourish. Any question? Let's go out, see the female dungeons, door of no return, and most importantly, door. Before be careful. Water reservoir, water system, water tank. They reserved the rainwater here, and the captives were those who were dependent on the rainwater, drinking, cooking for them. When they picked some of the beautiful female captives to abuse them, to rape them, they fetched water from here for them to shower before they took them to their bedrooms. But they dug wells, water from the underground in the community, depending on those wells, rainwater here for our ancestors. But can I shock you? This hole and the other one, these two were male slave dungeons. You understand that? This is where they were initially holding the male captives. I told you the one we just came out from, blind side of the people living around. They don't want a lot of people to know. So when we were taking them to the ships, they were not allowed to use the courtyard. Rather, they walked them from the dungeon. So this was just for the men. They marched them underground. A soldier will be here. Move, go, move, go. A spy hole, 18 feet deep. Construction done by manpower. So no wonder it took them. After slave trader, the British built multiple walls in the tunnel. They used part of the tunnel as storerooms, part of the tunnel as water systems. Some years back, we wanted to remove all the walls in, so they closed us. After they marched the men out, joined the women to the door of no return. They put them on boats. Not everybody, yes. I understand. Yes, not everybody. It's a gradual process. What they used over 400 years to do, Ghana, for instance, can use just like 66 years to undo. So it all boils down to education, as we are doing. Inside the country, the country. Exactly. They were not coming with their wives. Even the men. This is a big one. Female. Yes. Most of these were brought by some well-wishers and sympathizers. The immediate past vice president. The immediate past vice president of the United States. Is that person? Yes, I was thinking the Americans were going to make her the first female president, but they refused. They voted for Mr. Trump. Kamala was here 2-3 years ago, and this is what she laid. Kamala laid this one. We all aware she has something to do with the history here, because her father was originally from Jamaica. You know, most Jamaicans are descendants of Africans who were taken from here. The mother from India. So she had the opportunity, she came around, laid these natural flowers. 5 compartments, about 1,000 men. 2 compartments for women, because they needed more men than women to do the hard labor. But they needed the women against us. They also defecated here, urinated, vomited, menstruated. And one certain was as young ladies, when they had their cycle, it flowed on them and flowed till it ended and dried. Because no night cloth for them. They're not even allowed to sometimes shower, take their bath. And if I was going to be here for 3 months, meaning she was going to have 3 consecutive cycles without even washing down. The floor not excavated. So again, this is DNA of our female ancestors. Please let's come forward. Let's come forward. This infamous door of no return. Final exit point for some of our ancestors. Door of no return because some of our ancestors were forced, taken to the new world through or via this door and never returned. Door of no return because they forced them to this door and we lost contact with them forever. Door of no return because they forced them to this door and they lost almost everything as Africans. Dignities as human beings. It was short and narrow door. Captives bow down, squeeze themselves one after the other, force them to the door, and never returned. Let's go out there and continue. Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum. There can I? Michelle. From where, Mom? Most of them were killed. Those who survived the dungeons were those they marched to the door. They put them on boats right here, 400, 500 meters. When they entered the ship, that was all. Why am I repeating? Most of them died, most of them died. See, during the wars, raidings, kidnappings, and other means of getting them. Some died. Bringing them to the dungeons, they walked. Wild animals attacked, killed some of them. Snakes, some fell into pits and rivers. They were abandoned. Those who became weak on the way, guards killed them to serve as a lesson to the others. About 30% were killed in the dungeons. Some preferred to committing suicide, to going to the unknown destinations to continue with the suffering. In 1520, on my ankles and your ankles, if I decide to jump overboard, and if you don't take care, I'll go with you. On the ship, some died. They were dumping the bodies into the ocean. We just discussed that they were raping some of them. Those who were not seen pregnant in the dungeons, rather seen pregnant on the ships, were dumped into the ocean alive. Sometimes when they saw that the ships were overloaded, they just offloaded some of the captives to prevent sinking. Now, due to the bodies they were constantly dumping, sharks were following the ships because they knew they were going to get something to feed on. And indeed, they were feeding on the bodies. When there were food shortages on the ships, they trapped the same sharks to feed those on board. So they were eating each other's flesh indirectly. See, some researchers are saying that in total, in all, the Europeans had about 60 million enslaved Africans. 60 million. In a business which lasted about 400 agonizing years. Out of the 60 million, there's only about 10, 11, 12 million, depending on the researcher, made the journey across the Atlantic. Let's take the highest figure. If 12 million survived, meaning about 48 million were killed, died, perished. 48 million people is more than Ghana's population. And all these people we are talking about were young men and women. Most of them were between the ages of 13 to 45 years. Those were very strong, very energetic, very intelligent, were the kind of people they sent away. So Africa was robbed of her natural resources as well as human resources. And they are still robbing us. This that I can emphatically say European slave trade are hard and is still having huge negative effect on the continent. Because as I was telling him, what they used over 400 years to do, Ghana, for instance, can use just like 68 years to recover. Just that the pace is too slow. So after they used Africans, built the dungeons, built their countries, some of them now call Africans lazy people. Some of them are even saying we are living in shithole countries. But they always forget that they were the same people or their ancestors who still creating these so-called shitholes in order to develop their countries.
So if I understand, it's the same Ghanaians who put up this Castel.
No, there was no Ghana, there was no Togo. They used African labor.
So
Yes.
Africans put up
Yes. As I said earlier, we built our own dungeons.
Wow.
Right now,
We are still
Yeah, oil, gold, yes, lithium and all that, exactly, from Africa. The other side is door of return. Let's see that after you go through the door of return, share a word with you and say bye-bye. 45 minutes, even 1 hour is overspent. Come with me. As you wrap up, don't miss the conclusion. Don't miss the history behind. Oh, please stand here so I can see your eyes, you can see mine. Let's share the history on door of return. And to me, the history about door of return is the only sort of exciting history here. The rest of the history is evil, worst crime against humanity. But some people don't want us to talk about this Holocaust, but they want us to talk about other ones. But this is worse. If you consider the number of years, if you consider the number of people they took away, if you consider the atrocities and all that, worst crime against humanity. Don't miss the history of door of return. The French will say La Porte, containing skeletal remains, bones of two descendants died and buried. Madame Castel from Jamaica, Samuel Cousin from New York, America. They exhumed their remains from their respective graves from them to Accra. They boarded a car from Accra to Fort. Rather, we will go by the